welcome in. Dennis Fithian with you here, talking some Michigan basketball. It's gone final down in Orlando. You can see the final score if you're watching the video right now, watching YouTube. Michigan was up double digits in the second half. They end up losing it by 14, 85-71. Welcome in as we are sitting here on the penultimate day of 2021. Second from last, that's what that means. And everybody's counting down the hours till tomorrow's kickoff. We'll say Happy New Year to you already. Get in there, but not a happy bunch of Wolverines. Can't be, shouldn't be. Nobody going to be smiling after this one. This is one where you take a long look at yourself in the locker room afterwards, and there's a lot to take a look at and say, whoa, what's going on here? I think you start with the defense on this one. Central Florida had two guys that just went crazy on them. And this was what happened a while back when Minnesota came in. Michigan was a 14-point favorite against the Gophers. And two of the players, shot makers, just went off. And Michigan didn't guard them, couldn't guard them. And, sometimes you tip your cap, to the opponent and say, you know what, these guys are just fantastic. Give it up to the Gophers. They just had their guys were hot as heck. And, that's going to happen in basketball. But, tipping your cap repeatedly, after a while, that gets tiresome. And, you can only tip your cap so many times to the opponent. And, you're looking out here at Central Florida. And, Green Jr., 10 of 13 for 27 points. He had 16 in the first half. And then Mahan goes nuts and goes off with 26 points. How about these guys? Green Jr., 10 of 13 from the floor, 8 of 10 for Mahan. I mean, you got to guard these guys. And, we've talked so much. You've heard it so much about how Michigan's got to find some shooters and they got to get some guys be able to make some baskets from outside. Sure, if that's true. And they had a couple bright spots in that regard tonight, but they got to compete defensively. That's where, if this team's going to make the tournament, we're far enough in here, the last day of 21, and we've seen Michigan play enough games now where you can start saying, hey, this team's not going to make the tournament if they continue to play like this. They're not making the tournament. And, they've got the Big Ten's tough. Their schedule is rough considering the teams that they have to play twice. When you start going through it, they got to play Rutgers. They're going to go to Rutgers coming up. And, Rutgers beat Purdue, a little while ago. That's not a game Michigan's going to be favored in, considering how they played here on the road and the physicality that Ron Harper Jr. plays with. I mean, that's not a layup. I mean, that could be a loss. I mean, let's be honest, and they play Rutgers twice. They play Michigan State and Purdue. The next two teams that they'll play, they get them at the Chrysler Center. And, are they going to win both of those games? I mean, that would be something where you'd say, okay, they go out there and protect their home floor. Then you'd say, okay, they found something here. But, the way MSU and Purdue playing, they play both of those teams twice. Then after that, they go to Illinois. They're playing the Illini twice this year. The Illini, Ken Pom likes them. I know they're not in the top 25, but I've watched a little bit of Illinois. They can dial it up from downtown, and, they got Coburn down low. That's a tough out. I mean, that's, talking about going to Champaign and winning that game, that's tough. They play Ohio State and Iowa twice. So those are the teams that they get twice. That is, I don't know, the murderer's row. At least five of those teams, Rutgers, I don't know if you want to call Rutgers murderer's row, MSU, Purdue, Illinois, Ohio State. I'll put those four as four. I don't know if there's another Big Ten team that's got a tougher to play than Michigan does. But I think this one right here is the compete level. They got a guard way better. And the way it goes offensively, Seth Greenberg after the game and even during halftime, he kept talking about, the passing and the spacing and working the offense through Hunter Dickinson. And, Dickinson's popping out a little bit. And, when they get it down low, he's freezing the ball a little bit. When the opponent is not respecting Michigan's outside shooters, they're all going to sag onto Hunter, and it's going to become one of these things where they're just attacking him. And, he's kicking the ball out. You got to make him pay. and Michigan has not been able to do that. You look at some of the numbers here for the Wolverines, just when you look at their shooting overall, 11 from 27 from downtown, which is 40%, which, isn't all that bad. But, Caleb Houston was 0 for 4. If you'd watched Caleb Houston and look, when you come in as a 5-star and, the one of the, top 10 players in the country, he was ranked number 8 overall. He had to be, and I say it's no fault of his, no fault of his own, or no fault of the coaches or anything else, but he needed to be a volume 3-point shooter and a marksman. I mean, they had a lot of 3-point shooting to make up, and he was going to be the guy. I mean, that's what, he was supposed to be known for. And, some guys come in and, he reclassified. He should be a high school senior. He should be a high school senior. And when you watch, sometimes it looks like that. It looks like, hey, what would a really good player in high school look like if he was playing in college basketball right now? Well, he might look like Caleb Houston, a guy who, doesn't look like he's one of the best players out on the floor. And he really struggled tonight. He turned the ball over late, didn't hit a shot from downtown, didn't hit a shot at all. 0 of 7 from the floor. And this is a guy you were relying on to be your most consistent and the guy that you were counting on to shoot the most threes, at least heading into the season. That's how I looked at it. And he goes 0 for tonight. Now, it's not just to look at one guy and say, oh, he's the reason. You go through here and, Devontae Jones, he had been somebody that, he came in as the player of the year of the Sun Belt. A lot was to be expected of him. And in the early going, I think, some foul trouble, acclimating to the new team, acclimating to the Big Ten, even though, most of the games were in the non-conference, it looked like he was having a hard time adjusting. He's played well. He played well tonight. He's had a 2-3 game stretch now where he's looked pretty good. So there's a bright spot for you as a Michigan fan. And Eli Brooks wasn't too shabby tonight. But heading into this year, you'd say, well, a lot of people are talking about the construction of the team and boy, they lost a lot. And I think there's some points on all of that. But where I would start is that when I looked at this team and I expected this team, I thought the sky was the limit. I thought that they could win the Big Ten. I thought they could win it all. Certainly go to the Final Four. I didn't think anybody would, was talking out of term, saying that, Michigan could go to the Final Four. But when I looked at it, I expected Hunter Dickinson, and I think Hunter Dickinson and Eli Brooks, they've been all right. So, that's about what I've expected from both of those guys. Sure, could you say you'd want a little bit more, from Hunter? I think that's fair, but, he's about what I expected. I wasn't expecting him to drop threes left and right. And you know what? You're going to have guys knock down shots or teams are just going to surround him like they are. I think he's been all right. I think Brooks has been all right. But I thought that Brandon Johns, he's a senior. He came in last year at the end of the year when Isaiah Livers got hurt. I expected his game. I mean, you do this as a basketball fan or somebody that covers teams, a guy that's been around, you expect them to play their best basketball in their last year. So I really thought that he was going to elevate his game. You think back to when he played last year and came in, he wasn't great, but in some of the games, you think about the tournament game against Florida State. I mean, he had 14 points. He looked really good. That was the Johns that I was expecting. Now, Terence Williams, another guy, we've seen a couple flashes this year from Terence Williams, but not enough. I mean, you're expecting a little bit of a jump from him too. Those are two of the returning players. Talked about Devontae Jones, in some of the returns and what people were saying about him that we're watching practice and just the sheer numbers that you saw from him from the free throw line and from the 3-point, from shooting from distance, you thought he was going to be the perfect guy. Plus defensively, to get, and that's not been a smooth transition. Talked about Caleb Houston, he's got to be better from outside. And then, there's a couple of things. Zeb Jackson was sick and, he didn't even play tonight. And, Frankie Collins, a point guard, I thought that, you might just see some flashes from, and you have. I think Frankie Collins, you can't expect to, come in regardless of how somebody is ranked as high school a point guard, especially with the guys in front of him. So he's kind of been what you expected. Kobe Buffkin was a good sign tonight. He made some shots, and he made one late, to get Michigan when, they're down 9. He got them within 6 with under 3, and Michigan had a shot. But you know what? They couldn't guard Mahan because Brooks came back and got a 3, and then there they were again. I mean, they couldn't guard here tonight. So it goes back to the defense. I think I've hit on everybody, but, this team's got a rough road ahead. I mean, this was a game here tonight that I thought they had to win. When you start counting the numbers, and I know that they've and all over the place. I mean, now you can't really say, well, they need to get to 18 wins or they need to get to 19 wins. They had the cancellation, against Purdue Fort Wayne. But, that was one where you were thinking, hey, W. Tonight was another one you're thinking W, because now going to Rutgers, Michigan State, you see it on the crawl there. This is the upcoming schedule. I mean, how many W's do you see there? Do you see one at Rutgers? Maybe. But also, I mean, again, Michigan's not going to be favored in that game. Michigan State and Purdue, are they going to split those two? I think that is, I don't know even know if that's reasonable, the way those two teams are playing. And then going to Illinois, there's the fourth one there. I would say, probably they would not win that one. That's where, this thing can, whether you're saying it's snowballed already or it's gone off the cliff already, you just look at the upcoming schedule, and they're into the teeth of it now, and they've got to be playing their best basketball now. And tonight they did not play their best basketball. If they did play their best basketball, then, it's over. And, this is right after a game. So yeah, I'm yelling and screaming about it and everything else. But, it's one of these things. I went in with the absolute, highest expectations. And then, each game as it's gone along, you watch Michigan, okay, Buffalo and Prairie View A&M, all right. But then, okay, Seton Hall, what's going on there? One possession game, so anything can happen. But then they went out to Vegas, and after beating ULV, yeah, Arizona's a pretty good team. But you saw the defensive lapses in there, and that was kind of a slap upside the face where you're like, wait, where's the Michigan team that you thought, that you were going to see? And, you go through Carolina, blew them off the floor, and, it wasn't a great Tar Heel team. And you thought maybe they were getting a little bit of something going against San Diego State and Nebraska. But then, the real eye opener was Minnesota coming in and playing like they did. Minnesota looking like a tournament team. I don't know. They look fantastic. And Michigan did not. And that's the kind of same way it was tonight. Like, Michigan was up 4 points at the half. That's okay. And then they come out and they play fantastic. I mean, it's 2.5 minutes into the second half. Michigan's up 12 points. And Devontae Jones is knocking down outside shots. He's got 10. Hunter Dickinson has 10. Eli Brooks has 10. I mean, they're up. They're up 12. And it's like, all right, just keep playing the same game, but you have to guard. And then I'll get to the point. There was a charge call. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was a charge call. Terence Williams went in, and it was a tough call. And the replay showed that it looked like the Central Florida guy had his foot in the lane, but Juwan Howard's running out on the floor. He's lucky he didn't get thrown out of the game. He was right up into the ref's face. I know he was close to making contact with him. I don't know how you think of these things. Like, I remember his first year when Juwan went out on the floor and it looked like he was going to grab the ref, and it was against Michigan State. I thought, oh my God, he's lost his cool here. But you know what? He knew what he was doing there, because a minute later they cut to him and he was as cool as a cucumber. So it was completely calculated. And then, but we've got a pattern here with Juwan. And I know sometimes he goes out on the floor and he's wiping down the floor. That's all right. I mean, that's cool. But then we had the thing with Maryland in the tournament where, he's got to get held back, and he's, come on, you can only do that one time. And, he could be a coach for 10, 15 years. He can't go out and, he had his one shot there. And then, but I'll say tonight, if you're going to go out and, he completely lost his cool and he's screaming and he got attacked, if the team responds to that, you say, hey, you know what? Juwan was, it was a coaching, move by him. He was trying to fire up the team to get him to play defense. And And overall, I think that he did remain, even though he looked like he was hot under the collar, and I think, got a little bit too close to the ref. 2 seconds later, the next time they went to him, I mean, he was completely flatlined and seemed like, he wasn't overheated or anything. So it did seem strategic. Unfortunately, this is either you respond to it and, hey, great job, great, great motivational tool by the coach. If they don't respond to it and they don't fight, they don't guard, they don't compete, then you just say, what is the coach supposed to do? But, he's got to be careful with that. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, and he knows that as well. I think when he looks back at the tape, you don't want to get a reputation of that. Getting a tech is fine. I mean, that is a strategic. I'm talking about, to me, out on the floor, this close, to the official, and, be careful. That's it. But like, again, they cut to him and, he was fine. He wasn't hot after that. So, and it just didn't work. I mean, he went to his, sometimes in the flow of the game, you're going to do that to see if you can fire up your team. And it didn't work tonight. So they got a tough schedule ahead. A couple things to lean on here tonight. They shot, a little bit better, but, they've got to find Houston. And, he's got to get it here now. I mean, now in the new year, that's it. Goodbye to 2021. Let's say hi to 2022. And, this team, turn the page. Play different. It's Orange Bowl time. But for this team, it's getting back to the basics of competing and playing hard on defense. And then, they've got to have Caleb Houston knock down shots. There's no other way around it. Because Brooks shot well tonight. Devontae Jones, he's got to shoot well too. And he's come around. He's at least had multiple games here. The game against, I think, Minnesota that he had, or was it San Diego State, where he was driving the hole, he doesn't have to shoot, but he's got to score. And if teams are going to, slough off of him and give him 5 feet and just let him stand out there, his shot isn't, the most beautiful looking thing, but, it's gone in here for the last couple games. He's got to be able to score and shoot from outside. Caleb Houston has to as well. And, you saw Brooks dialing it in a little bit tonight. You saw a little bit from Kobe Buffkin coming off the bench, but I don't know, Brandon Johns has got to step it up, all the things. And we haven't seen that really all year long. Same thing with Terence Williams too. So, that's it. Where does it start? It starts defensively. And then after that, I'm going to go to Caleb Houston, and then I'm going to Brandon Johns. Those are the 3 things they need right now. If they plan on doing something here, like if they plan on competing in the Big Ten and trying to make the tournament, they need to compete on defense. They need Caleb Houston. It's pretty obvious. 0 for 7, 0 for the 4 threes he made tonight. I mean, that just can't happen. Michigan's not going to the tournament if Caleb Houston comes anything close to like shooting like he did tonight. But there haven't been a lot of games. Remember earlier in the year, he wasn't shooting well, and they were like, well, just wait till he goes 8 for 9, and then people are going to forget that. Well, we haven't had that yet, and he has to be a marksman from outside, or this team is not getting to the NCAA tournament. So they need him, and they need Brandon Johns and Terence Williams. If I'd add a 4th one on there, probably go 5, 6, 7, 8, keep going down to every man. But, you got to take some of that pressure off Dickinson and help out Eli Brooks. Those are the 2 guys that had it going, and Devontae's coming around a little bit, but these rest of the guys, they got to fill in here. You can't only have 3 guys if you expect to compete in a tough Big Ten and make the tourney. And now's the time when they have to do that. There's no more 2021. That's it. That's going to do it. So that'll also do it here for the night. I could just continue on and, yelling about this, but I don't know that's not doing any good. It's not doing you any good. It's not doing me any good. And, I've got football to watch. Pitt's blowing out Michigan State. Hey, there's something maybe to feel good about. 21-10 with 7.5 to play in the 3rd quarter. That'll do it. Hey, I'll talk with you at 1 o'clock tomorrow as we get ready for New Year's Eve, the Orange Bowl. Thanks for watching. 85-71. Central Florida. Michigan falls to 7-4. Happy New Year. If I don't talk at you tomorrow or say anything, we'll see how the football team does. Good night. Here I come again now, baby.